So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
All right. Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to tonight's edition of Bible News Radio. I'm really glad that you guys are here with us tonight. I don't know about you, but it's been a long day, hasn't it? And here we are tonight with you guys. And I'm so glad that you're here because tonight we have a guest who's literally up. It's 1:30 his time in the morning, people, just so you know. So I appreciate you guys sharing this out. And I also appreciate you guys just coming in because, you know what, this is going to be educational and it's going to be inspirational, in my opinion. I've been talking to our guest for the last half hour and just want you to know that, well, you're going to have fun. So I want to welcome all you guys coming in. I see you, Eva and Mia and Jason. Thank you guys for inviting people. Let's see here. I'm trying to see all the other people too. I can't see everybody, you guys. Bianca, nice to see you. And Lynn, nice to see you. Virginia and Danielle, it was never you. How do you know it was never me? No, I'm just kidding. Sherry, nice to see you. And anybody else, come on in. Thank you guys for coming in. I really, really super appreciate it because, as you know, we here on this show, we try to provide you, unique guests in the body of Christ who are actually lifting up Christ and His Word because we believe His Word is true. And even though people, are like trying to convince us the Bible is just a dusty old book, just want you to know that it's only dusty if you don't read it. It is old, but it's active and sharper than any two-edged sword too. It can change your life if you let it. So first thing I want to do, aside from welcoming all you guys in, is also I want to thank our sponsors. What we're going to do is just do our commercials right up front, everybody. We're going to thank our sponsors, Ariel Ministries. You guys know this is our main sponsor, and we're so glad that they are because they're biblical, and we have a special deal with them, which is that you can go to ariel.org and you can save 20% on anything in the store when you use the coupon code Bible News. And they also have their Messianic series of 7 books by D.L. Cooper. And this is an excellent value, you guys. If you haven't gotten this yet, you still have time to do it. All you have to do is go over to bit.ly/Cooper_books. Or I will tweet this out again on my Twitter account. But this is a 7 books for $32, and you can still use the coupon code and save an additional 20%. And what you'll get is the God of Israel, Messiah, His nature and person, Messiah, His redemptive career, Messiah, His first coming scheduled, Messiah, His historical appearance, Messiah, His glorious appearance, eminent, and Messiah, His final call to Israel. And what's really cool is these books were written before Israel actually was born again as a nation. So this is very cool. A lot of the very biblical info there from Dr. D.L. Cooper. So we want to thank that. And Judah_Israel, thanks for coming on into the show. And anybody else that came in like just now and I didn't see you, welcome to the show too. Glad that you're here. Also, I want to thank our pillars of the community and ask you guys, if you like what we do, then please become a pillar of our community. All you have to do is go over to BibleNewsRadio.com. You can sign up there. And basically, in order to become a pillar, all you do is commit to giving us $25 a month or more, which is the equivalent of taking me and Bareface out to breakfast or lunch with maybe dessert and coffee once a month. That's it. I mean, it's not that big of a commitment, and it will change the world if you do it because it will help us out tremendously. Hey, Gina, nice to see you, girlfriend. So if you do that, also what we'll do is we'll throw you into our secret Facebook group where I actually provide a lot of stuff that, well, that you don't see here.
I would prefer that we escort them gently rather than throw them.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So if you become a pillar of the community, that would rock. And also on our future products and stuff, the other thing is we also give you guys some discounts, including, as you guys know, I just launched our first Bible course, which was totally cool, by the way, called Stop Lying to Yourself, Darn It. No. your secrets are not secret. This is actually a little case study on King David and what we can learn from him and the secret that he kept and how God so lovingly confronted him with the prophet Nathan. And also some other things that I can't tell you because it's a secret. You have to get the course in order to get the full impact of what it's about. But for our pillars, we have a discount that's a little bit higher than the current discount we have for people who aren't pillars of the community. And so if you're interested in getting the course, I have a pinned tweet over on my Twitter account. It takes you directly to it. Or I think Randall put it up on our website, BibleNewsRadio.com. And I really, really, hope that you guys check it out. All right? Because, it was fun. I'm just saying. And I know a couple of you are getting it, so I appreciate that. All right, what else do I have? Let's see. Anything else? I think that's it. All right, okay, so you guys, you ready for our guest? This is so cool, you guys. He's up in the middle of the night. He doesn't even look like it's middle of the night there. Okay, so here our guest is Francois de Villiers. I think I said it close. And he
That's
is
fun.
Yeah, cool. This is really cool. Francois has, he has a master's degree, so he's a Mr. Snooty Pants, like I am. Actually, he understands biblical Hebrew language. He lives in South Africa. He's been married for 11 years. He has 2 children, a couple of animals. We were talking about that before the show. And let's see here. Let's see. He focused his master's dissertation on emotional expressions in biblical Hebrew and the text criticism of the book of Job. Now, Francois, one of the things you don't know is that last year, when my husband and I were reading the Bible through in a whole year, one of the books we studied was the book of Job. We literally went through that whole book. Seriously, I mean, we read and studied that book everywhere. Anyway, Francois is here from South Africa, and he's with the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, and so this is really kind of cool. And anyway, I want to welcome you to the show, Francois. I'm saying your name right?
Yes, 100%. Thank you.
Good. All right. So, and Kathy, nice to see you. Majestic Murphy and everybody else, thank you for coming in. Okay, so Francois, welcome to the show. Thank you for staying up for us. I know that you guys are, I know that you're up late or early. You're up early.
Yes, now over here it is definitely good morning already.
Yeah, very good. So, so now that everybody's online and everything, of course, I would love for you to kind of give us a little bit more of a background about who you are and all this, because, it's not every day that I get to talk to a biblical Hebrew scholar. And, just how'd you get interested in biblical Hebrew? We're going to go ahead and block some of these trolls, too. Go ahead.
All right. Must I start just telling about myself? What must I do?
Yes, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. You've heard my name is Francois, and I live in South Africa. I live close to the international airport here, so I'm fortunate to be pretty much in the hub where things happen in this country. The biography that Stacey read is already a bit dated. It's going for 12 years now. And the family has expanded. It's not just two children, a girl and a boy anymore. There are now 5 geese and 20 chickens and all sorts of other things added to it as well by now. I was fortunate that I could grow up in a Christian home. Both of my parents were still are. I mean, my parents are still alive. Very God-fearing people. And, I was fortunate enough that the Lord Jesus Christ was never a stranger in my life and my wife's life as well. And I grew up in what is now the Eastern Cape province of my country, and I went to study at the University of Stellenbosch. Many reasons why I became interested in biblical Hebrew. I suppose we can talk about that at length. And at the moment, I'm pretty much jack of all trades. And one of the things I do is to teach biblical Hebrew online. And it is my absolute passion in life.
Yeah, see, and that's so cool. And you know what? Congratulations on your expanded family. I'm envious that I don't have the birds and the chickens, actually. Just saying. And also congratulations on your marriage. 12 years now. That's awesome. I have to tell you, because in 14 days, me and Randall will be married 25 years. And
congratulations.
We're just a little bit older than you, not too much older. And pretty soon you and your wife will be married 25 years and 30 years, and then it goes by fast, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. So, okay, so I have to, you were saying that you were raised in a Christian home. Me and my husband weren't, neither one of us were raised in a Christian home. So I'm really glad. And I can tell you personally, as somebody who didn't have that heritage, that when I see somebody who had that heritage and they don't blow it or kind of spit on it like I see a lot of people do, I totally honor you, because I know that, because it's a blessing, right? I mean,
it's a privilege.
So how did you come? I mean, how did you become interested in biblical Hebrew? I mean, because most people look at the Old Testament or the original languages and go, man. That would be me, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
The original languages are actually a lot easier than people think. I think people are very mystified when they see this alphabet and you read in the wrong direction and all sorts of things from right to left. I think people are very spooked by that. But when you start learning it, everybody in the end says, but it's a lot easier than they thought it would be. The way I became interested is, as I said, I was very fortunate that I could grow up in a Christian home, very much under the influence of my parents and both sets of grandparents. And there was a stage when my mom told me that she made it a mission that she wanted to read the Bible from cover to cover, and she did. And then when she did, she went to wake up my grandmother in the middle of the night to say that she's done it. And then I felt that I also want to do it. I was in high school. And then I came across, as I was reading, reading from cover to cover, one of the portions of scripture that really spoke to me was a portion of the book of Nehemiah. Oh. I'm not sure if I pronounce it correctly in English. Nehemiah, does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I say Nehemiah. No, there's a joke, Nehemiah, but it's I say Nehemiah. That's what I say.
Good. The book of Nehemiah, and I came across chapter 8, verse 9, where it says that the ancient people of Israel have now, of Judah back then, they've now returned from the Babylonian exile. And what touches me there is the fact that there is this huge gathering of people, and they come to the priest Ezra and they ask him, please read the book of the Lord to us. Because 70 years in exile is a long time. Mm-hmm. And there was no worship service or anything scheduled there that I can see. Yet everybody came together without Facebook, without Twitter, without any mass media. Everybody just felt in their hearts that they want to come together and hear the word again. And in Nehemiah 8, chapter 9, it says that the priest Ezra was reading from a Hebrew scroll. But then there were Levites standing on both sides of him on a little platform, and they had to translate and explain what was being read, because you must remember, in 70 years they have unlearned their mother tongue. When they returned from the exile, they could no longer speak what was biblical Hebrew, so they needed people to translate and to explain it to them. And at that stage, I interpreted it as a high school child. It's obvious that translating it and explaining it to the people moved the people so much that they started to cry. Mm-hmm. And I felt I wanted to do the same for people.
Oh, see, that is so cool. That totally touches me. It really does. I mean, it tells me a little bit more about your character. First of all, you got a tender heart towards God, which is awesome. And I know when I became a Christian, that's the same thing. I started reading the Bible. I didn't understand why people said it was boring. I was like, what? This is the best book ever. And 30-something years later, I'm teaching it now more than I ever did, even though some knucklehead in the church told me, this will wear off in a year or so. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Anyway, I want to welcome Pastor Pete, who just came in. Mr. Pastor Pete, thank you for coming in. And also, Jason, thank you guys for moderating some of the scoundrels that have been coming in there. You wouldn't believe, Francois, some of the stuff that I just had to block. Ugh. But, you know, hey, the enemy, he likes to come out like a flood, but we will not let any weapon formed against us, it won't prosper. So, okay, so I have to go now to your thing, your study on Job. That really is impressive. Because a lot of people look at the book of Job and go, oh my gosh, this is just a boring book. It's about suffering, blah, blah, you know, and blah, blah, and everything. And so I'm actually interested. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because you know, that is actually, well, here's one of the things I learned. I learned that the book of Job is actually a book of poetry, and that it's, there's a lot of layers to it, which I'm sure I didn't get when I studied it because I don't know Hebrew, but I do know that it's a wisdom book, you know, book of poetry. And so I got to find out, like, what was it about the book of Job that captured you, that you would spend all that time writing about it and learning about it?
Well, I was fortunate. There was a lecturer in our department who was very interested in studying emotional expressions in the Hebrew Bible. Hebrew Bible now being the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he would write a lot of articles and publish books and things about all the different ways that people would express their emotions in the Hebrew Bible. And what was interesting is to say, you know, they had a very concrete, almost physical way to describe their emotions. You know, some Bibles will, for example, say when in the story of Cain and Abel, the Lord will ask Cain. In some of the Bible translations, it says, you know, why are you so sad? Why are you so depressed because of what happened at the sacrifice? You know, the one's sacrifice was now accepted, the other one not. But then the Lord doesn't ask him, why do you feel sad? The Lord asks him, why has your face fallen? Hmm. And if you consider some of the other ways that that people express their emotions, especially, I mean, I did focus on the emotions of depression, I'm afraid. So it is all expressions such as, you know, my face has become dark, but not from the sun and things like that. The problem with that kind of expression is that, you know, the book of Job is old. That's old, very old Hebrew poetry. And it's also some of the most tricky Hebrew to translate. And one of the ways that you translate the text is first you have to figure out what does the text actually say. And I was trying to look at some of the parts where I felt were actually emotional expressions, but Bible translations were not really paying attention to that. And then I indicated, you know, these are emotional expressions.
Very cool. All right, not to turn this into a study on Job, but I have to ask one other question.
Fascinating book. Fascinating book.
I do, because here's one of the big misconceptions. Well, because you study it and you know it inside and out compared to me. I know, honey. I'm sorry. I have to look over there. Hi, everybody. This is one of the challenges I have. Anyway, I'm pretending to look at you over there. Okay, I got to ask you the famous question about Job's wife supposedly cursing God, because it's my understanding that when I was studying it, that there was scholars that actually said the word curse really means bless, and what he was saying was that she wasn't really saying curse God and die. She was really saying just bless God and then die. I don't know. So what's your take on that? Because
yeah. Look, somebody who does biblical Hebrew with the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, and there is a whole course just on the poetry of the Bible, amongst other things. So it is a fascinating course. In one of the earlier courses where we do how does the Hebrew verb system works, how does the Hebrew verbal system work, then one of the things that you are going to learn is that, you know, each biblical Hebrew verb consists of a root consisting of 3 consonants. All my students who know me will know this little finger of mine by now. And but the thing is, what happens is you change a small little vowel here and there, and then the meaning can change. Now the word for bless and curse share the same root. Okay. The same root that it is from. And actually, the rhetorical device, the poetic device there is, it's trying to draw you as the reader in. Job's wife just said, look, curse God and die. And she uses a particular 3-letter root about what she wants Job to do. And then what Job does is he does use the 3-letter root, but he doesn't curse, he blesses. So the whole thing is there's this tension in the story, you know. Okay, Job's wife told him, okay, curse God and die. But then what does he do? There's this tension for a moment. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? And then when he does something, it's actually something totally unexpected. And that's what makes an impact on you as a reader. And that is one of the things that, grips you when you start reading the Bible in Hebrew. And this is why this Institute of Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, it's an eye-opening, heart-opening experience that I can really recommend to anyone.
You know what? I never even thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. I never even thought of it that way. Wow. See, you guys, you can learn something new every day. By the way, you guys go over to israelbiblicalstudies.com, okay? That's the website for it. The Israel Institute of Biblical Studies. That's actually why Francois is on our show, and he's up at like really super early or late, depending on how you want to look at it. Because what we want to do is we want to share with you what they have to offer in the event that you'd like to study the Bible in its original language. So tell us a little bit about Israel Institute of Biblical Studies and what they can expect and what it is that you actually teach in particular.
Okay.
Because you're in
the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, it is the biggest online language academy in the world, as far as I know. And it is also the one place where you can study basically almost anything you can think about the subject of the Bible, be it the Bible languages, the history of the Bible, interpretation of the Bible, the Hebrew background to the New Testament is one of the courses that they offer, which is also fascinating. I'm afraid the word fascinating is going to appear quite a lot while I talk. There are many courses out there, many online resources out there that say that they teach you biblical Hebrew. And I'm not shooting any of those things down. I'm the last person to do something like that. But nothing replaces the value of a personal contact, face-to-face contact with an expert. And if you study through the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, that's precisely what you're going to have. You are going to be face-to-face with an expert, but it's going to be in the comfort of your own home, via the internet, and there are going to be other students too, and students often engage with one another. Every opportunity is there to enlarge your world and your worldview and to deepen your understanding of Scripture and to deepen your faith. So that is what the Institute is doing.
Yeah, see, I think that's so cool. And, the best part is that anybody in the world can do it, right? So you are in South Africa. He's in South Africa, just so you know, just outside Johannesburg, right? And then
that's right.
And so, how did you stumble upon going ahead and working with these guys? I mean, because are these guys actually located in Israel, or?
They are located in Israel, as far as I know, but okay. The world has become a smaller place, so there are people all over the world. When I left the university, I really had a need in my heart. I feel I really, really want to do biblical Hebrew full time as far as I can. In this country, there's no real opportunity for that unless you actually lecture at a university, and those opportunities are quite limited, I'm afraid. I suppose it's the same situation in most countries. And what I did one day, I do not watch a lot of movies at all. But the one movie that I did watch was The Legend of Atlantis, an animated movie. And there's this particular section where one of the main characters, who's now an expert in all sorts of ancient languages as well, Sumerian and Akkadian, all those ancient Near Eastern language. And then in the movie, he says, it's a pity if I want to find a job, there are not that many job openings for experts in gibberish. And then I decided, but biblical Hebrew is certainly not gibberish, and it is an ancient language. But let's take a chance. What are the chances that there are openings for people to do that? And then I did do just a simple Google search, expecting that the positions that there might be would be abroad, overseas. And then the first thing that popped up was an advertisement for an online biblical Hebrew teacher. And I sent off an inquiry, and they phoned me back. And the person who phoned me actually ended up that he asked about my background and qualification and so on. And it turns out that he knows my lecturer at university. And after that, the doors pretty much opened. So I was very fortunate in everything.
See, see, that's just like God to do that. I mean, seriously, what's the likelihood? You're in South Africa, that guy's in Israel, and next thing you know, you're doing this. And of course, movies are very interesting. I don't watch a lot of movies either. I get bagged on from some of my friends. I can't believe you don't watch movies, but I'd rather spend time reading the Bible and studying it than most of the pablum in the media today. It's not beneficial to anybody. So because you have been a teacher there with the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, and you've met people all over the world, what's that like to actually, you have an interesting view, I would suppose, just talking to people from all over the world and, finding people who are interested in this subject, because it's not a lot of people, in my opinion, not that I would know, would actually take up biblical Hebrew or anything. So have you found any commonalities with the people, who are taking these classes? Because are they mostly men or women? Or are they both, young or old?
I am very cautious to make a statistical announcement about that.
Okay.
But the one thing that you do realize when you do this is you are surprised how many people are interested, and you are even more amazed at where exactly the people come from. They sort of tell us in the margin in which country the people are and also which city they are. And often you need to Google Maps to see where it is, because you might not always have heard about it. So the main commonality is that all over the world, people do have a hunger for the word of the Lord and to understand it better, and you will be surprised where this hunger is. Many people who study biblical Hebrew with the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies do it for different reasons. Many people want to just do it for their personal edification. They try to deepen their own faith, but many people do it because they want to make a difference in their own country. Many people who study with us and who've been in my classes, they actually very often they are studying to train for church ministry, but then they live in a country where neither the church that they belong to requires of them to have biblical Hebrew, but the subject is not offered in their country either. It is from their own hearts that they feel they want to teach the Bible, and they want to be able to have access to the original language, the original documents, and that is why they study it. Many people do it most people do it for personal reasons only. There are people who do it for academic reasons, and this is something that I must perhaps add, that the courses at the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies are accredited with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And there are many students who as I've mentioned, they are training for the ministry or something, but they but the country where they live in does not offer the subject. So the Hebrew University gives them accreditation for the course that they have done, and then they take that to whichever institution they are studying at, and will hopefully apply for recognition for credits or something like that. You'll also be surprised what kind of people end up being interested. One of the questions that was posted to me, that you wanted to know something about whether there are any students that stand out in the classes. Whether there are a few great stories of students in the classes. Now each group has got its own fantastic story, so you can't really differentiate. But I had the privilege very recently to have a very renowned and very widely published author of Christian books in my class. He was in the United States, and there was a point where we were discussing the whole verbal system, and I'll explain to you in a moment about what some of the difference or some of the deeper insights that you get what they might be. And there was a point when I was explaining something to him, and he asked a question, and he looked, and I answered. He looks again, and he asks another question, and I tell him the answer. He just sits back and he says, "Wow," and now that's a very renowned Christian author who does something like that, and it's heartwarming to see something like that. So anything from people who have just recently come to faith who want to know more. There are people from different religions who also do it, who don't know much about the Bible at all, and they just want to know more. There are people who do it purely for linguistic, academic purposes. There are students who do Greek and Latin and Akkadian and Arabic and Biblical Hebrew as all part of their little ancient language repertoire. Some people do it for that reason.
Uh-huh.
But many people do it for spiritual reasons and to deepen their own faith. And it's amazing what kind of people end up doing it. And the only thing you discover is that if you ask what kind of person is interested in studying Biblical Hebrew, the answer is that it is any kind of person who is interested in studying Hebrew.
Well, that's a good answer because, just saying. So I guess you can't tell us who that person was, huh? Is it kind of confidential?
I do not have the person's permission to share it, no.
See?
But he is a very, very widely published, very widely renowned. If I were to give you his name, it's 20 plus books that he has written.
Ah.
So you're going to talk about a person who is very well versed in the topic.
Well, that's very cool. Well, and it's good it encourages me to know that that there are authors out there who are Christian authors who they're not all ghost written, and maybe they actually are actually really, really learning something. I was going to ask you something else too. First of all, I want to ask anybody in the chat room if you guys, I think Coach Dave came in too. I don't know if you're still in there, Dave, but if you are, I'm glad you're there. Thanks for coming in. I actually wanted to find out, do any of you have any questions for Francois?
They're more than welcome.
Mm-hmm.
More than welcome.
Because he was originally scheduled to do a half hour, but we convinced him to stay for the whole show. And so if you have any questions, now would be a really good time to ask them, and I'll go ahead and try to write them down. But I'm going to ask you another question here, because I'm sure somebody's wondering if there are examples of words that take on different meanings between Hebrew and the English. Hi, Annie. Nice to see you too. So can you give us some examples of those? Because I'm sure there's a gazillion of those, right? So.
There are indeed, but also it's not just that words sometimes differ between the English and the Hebrew. It's just a matter of that you translate something into English, and it's probably the correct translation, but the Hebrew says more than that. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that you simply cannot express certain things in translation. And one of the first things I think is if you think about Genesis chapter 1, we all know it off by heart from childhood. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the first word that is used for God with a capital G, is the word Elohim. Now, the word Elohim in Hebrew is written in the plural. And it's a very specific use of the plural. In biblical Hebrew, one of the uses of the plural is to say that it is bigger, it is majestic, it is magnificent, bigger than you can think or imagine. So the idea of Elohim being written in the plural, the closest thing we get to indicating in an English Bible that this is now the God you're talking about is God with a capital G. But on a very deeper level, Elohim, you look in a dictionary, it means God with a capital G. You'll follow an interlinear Bible or whatever internet resource there might be. You'll see the word matching. But on a deeper level, it's all about the fact that the word for God, that the God that the word refers to is bigger than even the word for God can possibly say. And that's the kind of thing you will notice if you start studying biblical Hebrew through the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies. Another example, Deuteronomy 5, that's what I thought about, the Ten Commandments. Where the Lord says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slaves. Now, once again, that is the correct translation. And that's the dictionary meaning you'll get. And if you look in an interlinear Bible or whatever bilingual resources there might be online, you'll be able to make the match. But in that particular sentence, there's a type of verb which is impossible to, it's more a matter of English does not have that kind of a verb. It's a kind of a mood of the verb. I mean, we have active and passive voice of the verb and indicative and subjunctive mood of the verb. If I'm speaking Greek when I talk about Hebrew, sorry about that.
Did you see my eyes glaze over just a little bit? Because I was like, what?
Yeah. The thing is in that particular verb, it's a concept that you cannot really express in English. You have to use other ways to do it. And the whole concept is, the closest thing that it translates into in English is that our Bibles will say that the Lord brought them out of Egypt. But the Hebrew says something like, I am the Lord your God who caused you to come out. In other words, you did not come out yourself. You did not save yourself. In no way did you save yourself. The Lord did everything to save you. You did not even come out of Egypt yourself. He caused you to come out. He made you come out is the translation that you'll get in a dictionary, but the meaning is to do with that emphasis is that they did not get out there themselves. The Lord did it. He caused them. He caused it that they could come out, and He was actively the one who made them to come out. And another one, which I think might be relative for us Christians, is if you read the book of Ruth, the very opening verses of the book of Ruth says that Naomi and Elimelech and their sons, they moved away from Bethlehem in Judah because there was no food or no water. There was famine in the land, a drought or whatever. But you can only really understand the full tragedy of that sentence if you realize what Bethlehem means. Bethlehem in biblical Hebrew is based upon two words, Beit Lechem, which means house of bread.
Right.
And is it not then very tragic that they had to move away from Bethlehem because in the house of bread, there was no bread. And if you consider we as Christians who believe that the Lord Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem, is it not only now so much deeper, a deeper knowledge to know that in the same house of bread where there was no bread, so much so that people had to move away from it, it's the same house of bread where the one who would give us the ultimate bread of life would be born. And that's the kind of thing that you will have access to if you do biblical Hebrew. It's endless.
Yeah. Well, isn't also the book of Ruth? I love that book. It's one of my favorites.
Beautiful.
Isn't it? I think no. Isn't it? No. Well, I was thinking. Okay, I'm thinking it's the book of Ruth. No, it might be Esther. One of them never mentions God's name directly. Which one is it? Is it Ruth or Esther? Now I don't remember.
Esther.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but Ruth and Naomi and Boaz and Kingsman Redeemer and all that. I just love that. And it's so rich because it's like 4 chapters and there's, as you know, I could talk about the book of Ruth like all night too. Anyway, okay, I got some questions here, Francois. Okay, anyway, if you guys just came in, let me go ahead and tell everybody again.
I cannot pretend that I know all the answers though, but I'll try my best.
All right, well that's okay. Hey, I want to welcome Jeffrey and D. Emmanuel. I think he left. Well, he left, fine. But Jeffrey, you're here. Thanks for coming back in. Anyway, so our guest is Francois T. Villiers, and he's actually in South Africa right now. He's with the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, and it's like going on 2:00 in the morning for him. So thank you guys for coming in and hanging out with us for a little bit. Okay, so one of the questions was, can you recommend the best Hebrew English Bible to study, if you happen to know?
As in a bilingual Bible.
Yeah, probably a parallel Bible. Yeah.
I'm afraid that is the one topic which I am not very well at, because I mean obviously I don't read a bilingual Bible.
Good point.
So it is. So I'm afraid I simply do not know. There are some editions of the Hebrew Bible that they print the King James or whatever more literal Bible translation there is in relation to the Hebrew. There are many out there. You can't really say the one is the best or whatever. You maybe get a few that are more or less user-friendly than the others, but there are many out there. I wouldn't say there is one that's specifically better than the other. The ultimate problem you will always encounter, and that is that in an interlinear type of Bible or bilingual Bible, you'll be able to match. This is the Hebrew word for the English word. This is the Hebrew word for the English word. But the depth of what that Hebrew word means, you will not necessarily gain access to that. And that is hopefully a kind of thing that the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies will be able to help with. I must add that one must be careful. Hebrew is not... this is now something which I hope no one misinterprets, but it's not superstition and it's not magic. You understand? Just because you can say a few things in Hebrew doesn't give you the divine power. Unfortunately, it would have been nice, but the thing is, Hebrew is a language that is trying to convey a message, and the Lord has now, in all His wisdom, decided that it is this language that would be the foundation of everything. The Hebrew Bible would promise who the deliverer would be. It's the Hebrew Bible who explains to us who He ultimately is in the end. Mm-hmm. And it's a matter of if you know the Hebrew Bible, you will gain access to that. And like any language that has different nuances, different levels of meaning, and so on, you have to study it in order to get access to that. And the nice thing about the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies is that you have online courses where you are going to learn in the beginning, maybe the grammar and so on. But ultimately, as I said in the beginning, nothing can replace the value of a face-to-face meeting with an expert, because that's the person you can ask, and right there and then, and get an answer.
Yeah, see, that's so cool. All right, and I'm sorry, you guys, I just blocked that guy. I just couldn't stand it anymore. He was just disrupting too much. We have a couple of racist people in the, chat room, and yeah. Anyway, also I say hi to Sylvia, Sue Lynn, nice to see you, and D. Emmanuel. Did he leave again? I'm trying to see. Anyway, see, these are our normal peeps that come in, Francois. So anyway, I wanted to ask you this other question. Somebody asked this. I don't know if they were serious or not, but they want to know if God is both male and female.
No. Okay. It is always a masculine verb in Hebrew that describes that pertains to God to God.
There you go. See, I know. I mean, everything is father.
That's from grammatically speaking. Now, I know that within different theological views, people can argue about that for hours, and that's not my field of specialization. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the Hebrew Bible always refers to God in the masculine form.
Amen.
Masculine singular form.
So, Randall, do you have any questions? You're the one that loves language in this couple here. Yeah. See, just so you know, he tortures me with language every day. Ugh. He in particular, he likes Spanish, but then he'll go like, well, that's Greek, blah, blah. Anyway, so I thought Mr. Linguist over here across the table from me might want to ask you a couple questions.
Certainly. I just hope he doesn't...
you know what you're doing, Francois? You're actually making me want to learn Hebrew. Okay. You're making me want to. I'm like feeling the draw now. Okay. So
you're more than welcome. Once you start, you don't want to stop.
Yeah. Well, so you'll have to give us an idea of the courses and like how much they are. I don't know if they're really expensive or anything, but then of course, Randall.
The costs of courses you will have to find out from the institute themselves. They have a very good customer care section. You just send them a message and they will contact you.
Okay, cool. All right, Bareface. So do you want to ask our expert, biblical Hebrew, Mr.
No, you can't be an expert.
Well, you're more of an expert than I am. So.
Well, you're teaching it, so yeah. That says a lot. Now, I like the idea that you put forth. Being able to respond and ask questions to an expert immediately in these classes. That's important, and anywhere you are in the world, that is good. As I'm listening to you, and I'm considering pursuing some of these. For me, of course you are. Yeah, well, for me, it was, okay. Years of hearing sermons and, in the original language, it's this, or it says this, and I'm thinking, it's time to dispense with these translations and start to learn the original languages. Greek's a lot easier than Hebrew. Now that I can parse it.
I'm glad you think so.
But well, at least I don't know, because it's so much of English is borrowed from Greek. You know, it's easier to recognize prefixes and roots and something like that, and you can see a word and pretty much guess what it means from the onset. For that reason, when you get into the verbs and the moods and tense and voice and things that English doesn't have, and I know Hebrew has those too. Anyway, I'm formulating a question. I really am. So my experience thus far is I started with a short course in modern Hebrew at a Messianic synagogue, which familiarized myself with the alphabet. Now, it was my first introduction to the cursive, I guess you could say, the handwritten. I first walked into class, saw these worksheets, and thought, "What's this? I'm here to learn Hebrew, not Hindi. What is this?" It's familiar, just like the book print and the block print, and not the anyway. So modern Hebrew, and then of course other biblical stuff, interlinear and Strong's stuff. Anyway, so now here comes the question. It's really coming. And that is, now having that sort of introduction, starting from a route of modern Hebrew and then picking up words and stuff from the Hebrew Bible, would that put me at a disadvantage of learning, or?
No, it'll be to your advantage, because, at least the alphabet is the same. A lot of the structure of the two languages are the same, but obviously Biblical Hebrew will not have a word for a computer. And also very interesting in Biblical Hebrew, Biblical Hebrew does not have a word for a brain.
Huh. Really?
You literally think with your heart in Biblical Hebrew.
Oh, that's interesting.
So these are the kind of things. Look, the structure of the language is similar. A lot of the endings of the verbs are similar, and so on. So somebody who has modern Hebrew will have no problem, and they always do an assessment about on what level they think you are. There are many students who have a knowledge of modern Hebrew who actually go into the intermediate level immediately, because the first few lessons of the intermediate is to revise everything that was important from the beginner's level. And many students who enter with modern Hebrew as a background come in at the intermediate course, and those who've been with me coped perfectly.
Very cool. So do you have any more questions, Randall? Pandal Bareface?
No.
How do you say bareface in Hebrew? Can you do that? Just curious.
Just panim is the word for a face in Biblical Hebrew. And also interesting about the face is that the word for face is always written in the plural. So I'm not sure if it means you've got one face but many facial expressions, but that's interesting.
Okay. And is there a word for bear in Hebrew? Just curious.
I'm sure there is. David does say the Lord protected him from the bear and the lion and so on.
Yeah. We'll have to figure that out later. All right, so let me ask you a couple of A-list guest questions, since you're here. And you're actually, I would have to say I think you're my second guest I've had on from South Africa. I think I had on another guest years ago. But anyway, okay, so so I asked you earlier during our prep show if you liked eggs, right? So my question is, what do you do with the eggshells after you crack your eggs? What do you do? Just curious.
We dry them out in the oven, and we crush them, and we put them back into the chicken's food so that they can regain the calcium, so they can give us more eggs.
Yeah, see, that's good. You're repurposing. That's good. Recycling the eggshells, they come out.
Recycling, a whole different meaning.
Oh, that's classic. Okay, so, all right. So, do you get eggs there in a carton? I don't know, because I've never been to where you're at.
Well,
but...
it's got chickens
no.
also.
Oh, yeah. So, you got chickens, so never mind that part.
No, look, South Africa is a civilization, I promise. Everything that you get there, you can get here. It's not such a big difference. It is a fairly developed country. We are fortunate.
I wonder why.
Well, but I'm sure he doesn't get his
I didn't mean
eggs at the supermarket when you've got fresh eggs right there.
But if you did, like just for sake of argument, if you actually got your eggs in a carton, when you took the eggs out, what do you do with the eggs? Do you rearrange them? Do they have to be balanced? No.
Well, we have a big tray in our house with which is, I suppose it's the remains of what used to be egg cartons and so on, and we sort of put them all in according to how old they are, so that you know which ones you must eat first.
Gotcha.
So on the time that we do eat that we do buy eggs, we always put them in the place where the newer ones are, so that we know we must eat the oldest ones first.
That makes sense, actually. It does. Okay, and I'm going to assume you're a firstborn. Would I be correct in assuming you are a firstborn? Do you know how I assume this? Because you're an overachiever for one. I mean, and I'm a firstborn, so hey, I can totally make fun of you for being a firstborn. That's not a bad thing, but I just kind of knew, just so you know. Okay, driving. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure the roads there in South Africa do you drive on the right side or the left side? I don't know because I've never been there.
On the left. We drive on the left side.
So you drive on the left. So yeah, I went to Australia. They also drive on the left there, and scared me when I got in the car. I was like, whoa, it's kind of like weird going the opposite. But anyway, so when you had to take
the right side of the road to drive on is the left side.
Right. So when you took your driver's test for the first time, did you pass it?
I did.
You did? Yeah. See, I didn't. I mean, I did. Well, the written I did. The driving I didn't. And I'm not embarrassed to say so. Do men in South Africa ask for directions? Melanie wants to know.
Well, just like men in most countries, we are too proud to ask for instructions. We are too proud to stop and ask for directions, apparently.
Well, who needs to with a GPS? I'm sure it was a guy that created that, right? So do you guys got GPSs there? You probably do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, everything.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, is there anything? Okay. So also one of the other things, too, and I know our time's getting really short, but I would love it if you could give us an overview of what Christianity is like there in South Africa. I know you were telling me that there's rising persecution over there, and that's another reason why I'm really glad you're here, because you can testify to kind of the state of the church and how the media and how the world actually treats Christians in a different country than like here in America.
I'll come to that, but I just want to say there is a question that that was emailed to me that you guys are going to ask me. Why do I feel it's important for Christians to learn Hebrew? You please must not forget that one.
Okay, I won't.
Okay, all right.
It's on my list.
South Africa is a very, very diverse country, diverse in all senses, in terms of language, ethnicities, races, tribes, everything. So I'm afraid trying to describe what is Christianity like in South Africa, there is not one single answer, because you have everything, anything that you get in all over the world, you have here too, and then you have your indigenous churches. Things are a bit different here. Look, I mean, South Africa has been on paper, it's been in a democratic dispensation since 1994, and the thing is just, I'm now a bit dangerous about what I should say and what I shouldn't say. The thing is, we are still getting used to what it is really like to have this open and free society where anyone can say anything and believe anything they want to, and so on. In the past, the country was fairly conservative. You had there was Bible teaching and praying at school and things like that. Parliament would be opened with Bible and prayer and so on. And very recently, a few weeks ago, there was a big court case against schools in the country, and basically it comes down to the practical effects still has to be crystallized into reality, but it comes down to, a school is not allowed to, a government school anyway, is not allowed to promote a particular religion. And and the persons who started the court case live in my town. And it was so the reason why it was relevant for me, they shaped it in the sense, this is now a court case about a basic principle about religion in schools and so on, but it was in reality with a very specific set of schools in mind. And we don't know what's going to happen now. Many people who interpret the law say that in practice things might not change all that much. Some people say that this is the beginning of the end. I don't know, but yeah, there are things that are troublesome.
So I'm glad you shared that. I mean, you don't have to go into any other detail, but I just want everybody to know, look, don't take your faith here, especially if you're in America or England or other places where you're not gagged as much. Don't take it for granted, because
one thing I can say is, church attendance in South Africa is shrinking. Christianity in South Africa is shrinking. Apparently, the Central Statistic Agency made a statement here that South Africa is one of the countries where Christianity is in decline the fastest.
Yeah, and also anti-Semitism. Now, I think that's interesting too, because I mean, here you are with essentially a Jewish ministry, Messianic Jewish ministry. And I mean, the rise of anti-Semitism and the hatred of Jews is not decreasing, contrary to what some people might think, even though Israel now has at least 300 Messianic congregations in it that I know of. So you have any thoughts on that?
There are many Messianic congregations here in South Africa too. Some of them fall within, that some of them are congregations within larger Christian or Protestant churches. There are some congregations that say, it's a whole Messianic church kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And anti-Semitism is a narrative that's been pushed in the media and mass media, and I'm afraid my opinion is that the public has bought it. Because when you drive around in South Africa at the moment, everywhere there are posters, boycott apartheid Israel and things like that. So it's unfortunately, look, you guys must not understand, I cannot pretend that I am now giving the authoritative view on anything. Okay, this is just my observation.
Right. No, and you know what? You're an eyewitness, just like we are here in America, as far as things going on. So that's very cool. All right, so we'll end the interview by asking you the last question. Why do you feel it's important for Christians to know biblical Hebrew? And that's a great question that I came up with all by myself.
I'm very glad. The thing is that I must just say to your audience, look, Stacy was kind enough for me to send me the questions plus minus what they were going to ask, so that I'm at least a little bit prepared, and I really appreciated that. Anyway, the first thing I would like to say about that is, look, we Christians must realize that the book that we call the Bible, 2/3 of it, if not 3/4 of it, is the Old Testament, which is the Hebrew Bible. And it's written in Hebrew. And when we read it merely in translation, there's an endless depth of meaning that goes missing. And we as Christians read the New Testament to learn who Christ is and what he has done to save us from our sins. But the New Testament writers themselves use the Old Testament. In fact, Christ himself used the Old Testament to explain to his disciples who he is. We read in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, about the story of the road to Emmaus, where two of his disciples were walking after his resurrection, and he joined them along the road, and they did not recognize who he is. And then it says there that he explained to them who he is. Christ explained to them who he was by telling them everything that the Hebrew scriptures, beginning with the Hebrew books of Moses and the Hebrew books of the prophets and the Hebrew writings, what all those things say about him. So for our faith as Christians to learn biblical Hebrew, it will give you a deeper understanding of what the New Testament writers were actually saying. Mm-hmm. And the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies is at this stage your ultimate gateway, I think, to I know, to get a deeper understanding of this.
Amen. Well, you know what? I am really glad I got to meet you. I am. If I could, I'd give you a big hug or a high five or whatever. Just like that. No. My younger brother in the Lord, who's much smarter than me when it comes to language. Hey, you guys, go over to IsraelBiblicalStudies.com. Okay, you guys go over there, check out the website, and you could sign up for a class that maybe Francois is going to teach, and if they want to get in touch with you, is there a way that they can do that, or do you have
with me personally?
Yeah, like if anybody wants to ask you a question or something, do you have a way to do that, or should they go through me?
I have an email address at the institute, but I'm afraid to say it over the air might be a bit difficult for people to get.
Okay.
It is my first name, Francois, and then with a V afterwards, Francois V, and then at eteachergroup.com. eteachergroup.com. I say, well, I can type it for you or send it to you anyway.
Okay, yeah, I can go ahead and if anybody wants that, we can go ahead and give it to you. Just tweet us at Bible News Radio, and
I see there's a option.
Yeah, and we can do that. We can do that after the show too. Are you on Twitter or Facebook or anything? Or
I am, but I prefer not to share that part of my life.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's Francois. Okay, I've sent something to you there.
Okay.
Francois V, teachergroup.com.
Gotcha. You see that, Randall?
But please just realize that I'm not an official representative. I'm. If you want to get in contact with the institute officially, you have to go to the website and contact them from there.
Okay. Cool.
More than welcome to contact me personally for whatever reason, and I'll refer you to whoever can help you if I myself am not able to. But if you want to contact the institute officially, you have to go to their website.
All right. Cool. All right, so is there any other questions or comments for Francois before we go ahead and log off, you guys, for tonight's episode of Bible News Radio? I want to, by the way, thank you guys for coming in. Some of you that just came in, thanks for doing that. Totally appreciate it. You're going to have to catch the replay because it was really good. You missed out if you just came in. They're saying thank you. Kathy, you're welcome. And Kathy is in the UK. So I think she's,
thank you.
Right? She's in the UK, right? Well, I know.
I thought she was in Australia.
Are you in Australia? No, you're in Australia. Yeah. Somebody else is in. Yeah, you're in Australia.
I have students who live in Trinidad and Tobago. I have a student in the Solomon Islands. I have a student in Zambia. I have a student in the Ukraine. Any country you can think of, I might just have had a student from there. So it is. Many students are from the United States. I must say. Most students are.
Well, very cool. All right. Well, Francois, don't hang up, but we're going to go ahead and end the show. Everybody, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget, you can go to IsraelBiblicalStudies.com. It will be here in the show notes after I upload this over on our podcast channel. And don't forget, also, Ariel Ministries has their special 20% off. Use the coupon code Bible News. And if you want to get my new Bible course, go over to my Twitter account. It's pinned there it's my pinned tweet. And there is a coupon code to save $2, aka 7% on it, which will bring it down to $27 for you if you get it. All right, and you can also become a pillar of our community. Those of you who are already pillars, thank you. But those of you who aren't, then you can become one. And I want to thank you guys seriously for coming in and being part of our show tonight. Remember how I always end every show? Be bold, stand up, and go with God. You know what? Because He loves you. So we'll see you tomorrow right here at the same time, 7 o'clock Central Time. Thanks for tuning in.